Welcome back, everyone. In this tutorial session, I'm going to be showing you how you can develop a simple land degradation assessment tool using Microsoft Excel. Of course, you can use Microsoft Excel or you can use Google Sheets, which one works for you. But I'm going to be using Microsoft Excel. And for this form, it's a simple land degradation assessment form. It's going to have two groups. The first group of questions is going to be about the enumerator details, like the name of the experts, the email of the experts, their organization, gender, and then the correspondence details. Like, first of all, we need to know how many correspondents you have, and that would address the number of forms to create for each correspondent. So if you have, for example, two correspondents, it means we're going to have two separate forms for each correspondent's name, age, and gender. And then the second part, or the second group of questions, is going to be around land degradation. We're just going to have three questions. The first one is, what is the main land degradation type? The second one is, what are the main causes of land degradation? And then the third one is going to be on expert recommendations. So now that we have a guide on the tool we're trying to create, let's get started. So I'm going to work with Microsoft Excel, as I mentioned. All you have to do is navigate to your Excel software and just open. Create a new blank workbook. As I mentioned in my earlier videos, the XLSForm consists of two main worksheets. The first one is the survey sheet, which contains all the questions. And the second sheet is the choices sheet that contains all the options for multiple selection or single selection questions. And for the survey worksheets, it has three main columns. The first one is the type of question, second one, name of the question, and the third one is the label of the question. Now, if we refer back to our guide, we're going to have two groups, and the way to begin a group is by indicating the type of content a group is. So we have a data format type of begin group. You're basically telling XLSForm that you want to start a group of questions from this point, and you can just give it a name, for example, country, or we can just name it enumerator details without the space, section A. Great. And then the next piece of question is the enumerator full name. So yeah, I'm going to start from the label side just so it makes sense. I'm going to start from what appears on the Kobo Collect app. Section A, in this instance, will appear on the Kobo Collect app. And for the next question on enumerator's name, the name that's the text that will appear on the app is, what is the name of the enumerator? So this text will appear on the app, on the Kobo Collect app, and then we're going to give it a unique value, something very simple like enumerator name. And then the type of data we're expecting to be entered under this question is a text. So we're just going to name it a text data type. And then the next question is enumerator email. Again, what we want to appear on the app, what is the enumerator email? And we're going to give it a unique ID, enumerator email, and we also expect a text to be entered under this question. The next question is enumerator organization. So what is the enumerator organization? And something unique, enumerator organization. It doesn't have to be complete, so just leave it as enumerator org. And then we're also expecting a text data to be entered under this question. And then gender, what is, or just select gender. And we're just going to name this as gender. And then for this, to avoid data entry error, because a lot of time people would like to test your software, your app. For example, if you ask people, I've seen this happen so many times, you ask people to enter, for example, gender, some would enter male, M-E-L-E, some would decide to enter just M, some M-A-L, some ML, everybody with his preference. So to avoid this kind of errors and issues, it's best to give people options to select from. So the gender question is going to contain options, and it will prompt the user to select gender from a list of options. So the data type in this case is not going to be text, it's going to be a select one. Now, we're using select one because we just want you to select just one option. And we're going to name it gender. So select one gender is the data type. Good. So now we're done with the enumerator details. Now we want to go to the correspondent details, but then we need to know how many correspondents we have, and we want it to be like a repeated form, depending on the number of correspondents you have. If you have one, you have just one form to fill. If you have 5 correspondents, then you have repeated forms for 5 different correspondents. And in order to achieve this, we need to ask the question, how many correspondents available? And we're going to name this correspondent number. And the data type for this, as you all know, it's an integer because we're expecting a number and not a text. So we're just going to use an integer data type. Now, this is where it gets a little bit tricky, because what we're trying to do now is to generate forms based on the number that will be supplied into this question. So we're going to create a repeat function called begin repeat. So any question that comes after this repeat mark is going to be repeated based on the number being supplied by this question above. And we're just going to name this respondent repeat. Doesn't really matter. We can just add a label to this other resource persons. Now, what information do we want to have on other resource persons? We have name, age, and gender. So for the name, as usual, it's text, and we're going to call it correspondent name. And the text we want to apply, enter name of correspondent. And then the next one is age, and age is a number, so it's an integer correspondent underscore age, and enter correspondent age. And the last one is gender. Gender is a select. It's a single select question, so it's going to be just select one gender. And the name is going to be correspondent underscore gender, and the label should be select gender. And once we're done with the repeat questions, we can end the repeat function, and then we can end the entire group and group. So I'm just going to add a little bit color coding just for clarity. Begin group and group. This doesn't have any impact on the form. It's just trying to tidy up the form to make it look nice and neat. Good. So now we have all the questions to the first section, right? So one thing we haven't done is to understand how this repeat works. We said this form only operates or only repeats based on the integer supplied to the how many number of correspondents you have, but we haven't made the connection yet. So there's a you can add an attribute called repeat count, and this repeat count, the way it works is it works only on questions or columns that have the repeat type. So we want this question, for example, just this question to be repeated, just this group of questions to be repeated, and we want them to be repeated based on what was collected here. So the way to do that is to add $, your curly braces, and then the name of the question, correspondent number, correspondent underscore num, close your braces, and there you go. And now this begin repeats group of questions only operates based on the number of correspondents supplied here. If 5 is being supplied here, and if 5 is being supplied here, then this becomes 5, and then this form is being reiterated 5 times. So now that we're done with the first part of the question, let's create section B on land degradation assessment. And it's pretty much the same step. You can choose to not leave a space, you can leave a space, but I like tidy work, so I will just leave some spaces, and we're going to begin a new group. let's name it land assessment and section B. And the first question is, what is the main land degradation type? So what is the main land degradation type? And then from the name, a unique identifier, I can just name it LD type. And we expect the text to be supplied here. We can choose to make it an option, so we can decide to supply an options of land degradation types. Let's just make it an option. So we're going to select one one degradation underscore type. Okay. The next question is main causes of land degradation. What are the direct causes of land degradation? And for this question, we're going to name it LD cause. For this question, I want to make it into a select multiple questions. So I'm going to provide the different causes of land degradation, and I would want the user not just to select one, but to select multiple options that apply to the type of land degradation. So instead of select one, we can just go with select multiple. So the select multiple question type gives you the liberty of selecting multiple options from a list of options. So degradation cause. And the last question would be expert's recommendation. So for the expert recommendation, it's a text, and we just name it recommendation. The name of the question that appears on the app would be expert recommendation. And maybe at the end, we would just like to have a note that says end of question, end of assessment. Yeah, let's use end of assessment. Okay, and we end the group. So I'm just going to color code this to green. There's really no rationale behind this coloring. I just like to give color codes because when I see green, I know it's a group and so on. Good. So now we're done with all the questions from the survey sheet. What the next thing to do now is to go back to the choices sheet and create all the options to the questions they're supposed to have options. And for the choices sheet, if we remember, the columns are list name, name, and label. The first question with an option is gender, because we want the user to select just one gender. And the code for that question is gender, this one right here. Select one gender. So it means we're going to use this code, this gender code here as our list name, gender. The name gender has to be the same with the one on the multi or single choice question. So gender, the first gender is female. We're going to give it a unique name of female, and the way we want it to appear on the app is going to be female with the capital F. And the second gender is male, and we want it to apply as male. The third gender is non-binary, for example, and non-binary, and so on. So if you have more options, you just keep using the gender, code name, gender, and just keep adding. But for now, we will go with this 3. And the next single or multi question is, we have another gender, but because they have the same code name of gender, this will suffice for this question also. So you don't need to create multiple questions, multiple options for gender. The next one is land degradation type. So for this one, the code for land degradation type is degradation underscore type. I'm just going to copy that and place this under the list name, degradation type. And the first type of degradation is, for example, if there's no degradation, there's no degradation. And the code I'll be giving this will just be O. This coding is adopted from the WOCAT land degradation assessment tool, questionnaire mapping tool. It contains all the questionnaire. It contains all the land degradation types and these codes. So feel free to reach out for the questionnaire mapping tool. It could be shared and freely accessible to all GEO-LDN teams. And then the other option we want for degradation, let's see, for water erosion, we give it W, and water erosion. Another degradation type, let's say soil erosion, we give it E. Sorry, water erosion, and then E for soil erosion. Soil erosion by wind. Again, these codes are according to the WOCAT questionnaire mapping tool. So it could be anything you want. This is just a good practice from the land degradation assessment tool developed by WOCAT. And if it's, let's give a last option, let's say biological degradation, name it biological degradation. Good. And then causes. Okay, this is a multiple selection question. So for the multiple select question, multiple option question, it's causes of land degradation. And some of the causes of land degradation, for example, could be the most common one, deforestation, and we'll name it, and removal of natural vegetation. We'll just give this a code name of F, and degradation cause. Next one is soil management, the type of soil management. Name this S, and let's go for the last one. Let's go for grazing. So overgrazing, we give it F. So yeah, I think now we're done with all the choices questions. Yes. So what we want to do now is to save this. I'm going to save this.